I like to minimize the things I'm dependent on in the world. I want to minimize dependencies, right? And so that's where I'm at. That's why I like to. There's a principle of cycling I like to use, whether it's cycling off of alcohol or caffeine, or this particular exercise, or this person, or Netflix. For instance, I just canceled Netflix for the next few months. I'm cycling off of Netflix. I took 3 months off of alcohol earlier this year. I'm always cycling on and off of things to keep my mind and my life.
Art of Health Hacking. I love that name of the book. And please welcome to the show, TJ Anderson.
Is the mic working? Check
yes,
mic one.
It is.
Hey, friends, welcome. And thank you for having me, Chantel. I'm so excited to be here with your listeners. Let's get into some health hacking.
Yeah. So first I want to start out by you. And by the way, you have the best voice. I'm nominating you for the best voice of our guests.
In a world.
But I would love to hear some of your own health hacking habits that you've created that you say, look, I do this all the time and it makes a huge difference in my health.
You bet. Sure. Well, I like to breathe. I like to spend a lot of time in the sun. I like to not eat. I like to eat. There's so much that goes into this journey of health hacking, and there are lots of different practices that have become habits that I cycle in and out. But let's just talk about this morning, for instance. I'll just is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Is like sort of like a day in the life?
Yes.
Cool. So I let the sun wake me up naturally. I haven't used an alarm clock in months. I spend at least an hour to an hour and a half outside in the sun, lying out on our deck and or walking my dog. With no sunscreen to get full spectrum sunlight in the morning, prior to really even plugging in the Wi-Fi or getting on, any sort of technology. I sold my smartphone 2 months ago. I now use a flip phone. So for all of your users that are watching the video of this, you can see this is what a flip phone looks like if you've ever seen one of these before. And so my morning, the only thing I've eaten today are, I guess it's 10:15 a.m. Mountain Time. And I took some supplements that are best taken with food. Otherwise, I would have fasted through the day even more. And so I had a little bit of food with said supplements. And the food I had was 2 sugar-free or low-sugar cookies. So I eat cookies for breakfast. My girlfriend and I have a couples cookbook coming out when we make lots of paleo, keto, healthy desserts. I like to breathe, as I said. So a big part of my personal practice is what guides me through every aspect of my work, of my days, is how I'm feeling and my connection with my body, my emotions, my heart, my breath, my nervous system, from a emotional level and like an actual felt psychological level. And so I'll do a lot of heart math, heart rate variability, heart center breathing work. There's a company called Heart Math. I talk about my book that does a lot around emotional resilience. So I like to, do heart-centered breathing exercises to increase my coherence, which is a way of increasing your connected fluid heart rate variability, which is connected with decreased mortality rates. So there's clear science. People want to look up some studies on this. Heart Math, again, is the leading organization in that space. those are some tidbits of my morning, and I have a really powerful mantra I use often in my breathing exercises from a book called The Presence Process. If I were to recommend two books for people to read besides mine, The Art of Health Hacking, The Presence Process is one of the best books I've ever experienced. It's a 10-week process to deepen your connection with the now and do a lot of work to unravel our conditioned self and live more in the moment and cultivate more present moment awareness. And so the mantra for that, it's 6 words that are connected with each of your breaths. So it's connected breathing. So as you say each word, you do an inhale. So inhale I, exhale am, inhale here, exhale now, inhale this, or in, exhale this. So I am here now in this. 6 words, and you say each on each breath, and you do that for 15 minutes. So that's one of the really powerful practices I use daily.
Wow. So let's dive into each one of those real quick. So as far as the alarm clock, what time do you normally wake up? So like if you said, I just kind of wake up when the sun comes up. What time do you normally wake up?
Yeah, good question. So anywhere between 6 and 7:30 is the window.
Okay.
It depends on what time I went to bed last night and, what I ate, or if I had anything to drink that last night, or I had a lot of travel. Yeah.
Good. So let's talk about the intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. Everyone seems to be moving to time restricted eating now. But would you say on a normal day, if you weren't taking supplements, what time do you usually start when you're intermittent fasting on your eating window?
Sure. I mean, like I said, it's every day's different for me. I mean, and it's the normal, like I don't have
That time.
I have different, I mean, my intention is to always live in the now and to live in the
Sure.
moment. And that changes day in, day out. Sometimes I'll make a waffle, a paleo waffle in the morning, because recently we bought a waffle maker, and it reminds me of my childhood, right? These foods that we can health hack and make taste good. And so I used to do a lot more intermittent fasting and like measure my ketones and get into ketosis and be like over the top about that. But I mean, I'll eat around 11 or noon or sometimes 1. I often do 24-hour fasts. I've done a few 48-hour fasts over the last few months, and I'm interested in doing some 3 and 5 day fasts soon. But as I said, we're in the throes right now, my partner Amanda and I, of creating a healthy couples cookbook. And so it's really hard to do intermittent fasting when you live in a house with her. She's such an amazing chef, and the food she makes is just and we don't have like a door that closes off our kitchen. We're in this like 1,000 square foot flat in the mountains in Boulder. And so the kitchen's just such easy access, and her food's amazing. So, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of an example of where I'm at.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about you being in the sun. We had a podcast guest that said, he's so funny. He was like, the more exposure your body has to the sun, the more vitamin D you're getting. He's like, so I go outside for 30 minutes a day, completely naked in the sun. Now, what about for you? Like, first of all, you're in Boulder, Colorado. So like in the winter, it's super cold. So even in the wintertime, you're saying I'm going to spend an hour outside in the sun?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of people have that's a common misconception that Colorado is super cold in the winter. What you need to realize and remember is that yes, while Colorado is higher in elevation, is 4 seasons, and often gets lots of snow, it's known as a winter state. It's also a very dry state, meaning there's less moisture in the air compared to, say, where I'm from in Iowa, where there's lots of moisture in the air. What that means is the summers are going to be much more humid in Iowa because there's moisture in the air, and so thus it'll feel hotter. But out here in Colorado and Arizona, like in the summer, they call it a dry heat, right? Because there's less moisture. The same thing happens in winter. With all the sun we get, combined with the fact that winters have less moisture in the air, so it just doesn't feel as cold as it does in, like, say, Iowa, where I'm from. And God bless the Iowans for staying put. Those winters are brutal, and they may only be getting more brutal here as we go. But the sun comes out all the time in Colorado in the winter and melts the snow right away. And here's the thing. A lot of people don't realize that how our body responds, our body is always responding to external stimuli to create a homeostasis experience in the now. So when you expose yourself to cold, what you're actually doing is warming yourself up on the inside. So as you're exposed to cold, it lowers the body temperature, and the body responds to go back to homeostasis with that body temperature to warm up. So a cold shower, for instance, cold exposure outside actually warms you up, combine from the inside out, whereas hot actually cools you down on the inside. That's why, like, a warm shower or a warm bath before bed can be great, because it cools down your body temperature, which can be helpful for higher quality sleep, a lower body temperature. So those are just a few quick tips on temperature, as you asked. Now, related to sunlight, yes. So we're in the winter, we're not like lying out nude as much, and if I'm every now and then, if I'm feeling crazy, I'll run out in the snow barefooted, naked or in boxers, and with my dog. But it depends. I mean, mostly what I'll be doing is probably wearing boots with my skin exposed if the sun is out, so my shirt off. My shirt is often off. My shirt's always off. Like, first thing. I mean, as a man, it's a lot easier than a woman, but to do that. But the thing I will mention also in reference to your point around the other person you had around vitamin D. So vitamin D is actually not as present earlier in the morning and is more present during the middle of the day, from what I've heard, learned, and read in my experience. So there's different benefits for getting sun at different times of the day. And so while vitamin D can be higher during the day, the UV kind of killer wavelengths of light are also higher as well. So your chance of getting sunburnt in the middle of the day is higher. So it's about a mindful approach, and knowing that there's so much that goes into it. There's actually a fascinating app, which I no longer use because I don't use apps on my flip phone these days. But it's called, it's all about, like, your positioning on the earth in relation to the sun, your type of skin. There's so many factors that go into it. I mentioned a story in my book. So this book took 4 years to write. And while writing it, I was like a nomad, living on the road, traveling a lot. And during this experience of writing the book, I had an issue, a visit to the emergency room that kind of scared me and woke me up. And that caused me to get into advanced blood testing and genetic testing, which spawned like 6 more chapters in my book. So the book is a self-coaching guide for, like, modern day health conscious consumers that want to, like, build their own, like, all-star healthcare team and self-care strategy. So I teach people how to build their team and get advanced blood testing and genetic testing and customize a plan based on all of that. Now my work is mostly for men in my day-to-day work, but the book is for everyone, men and women. And so in that process, I got into my genetics and learned that actually I have a genetic mutation for my ability to metabolize vitamin D. So I have the vitamin D. There's a few different variants for that mutation. There are a few different vitamin D mutation options, and I have one of them. And so basically, what you do is when you get your genetics, you can compare and contrast your genetics to your biochemistry blood data as you change your lifestyle to see how, based on you make a decision based on your genetics and your blood work. And while your genetics won't change, you can watch how your decision that you integrated in your lifestyle changes your blood work. And so I did that with my vitamin D. I got a blood serum test through Wellness FX to find out that I had like moderately low vitamin D living in the winter in Iowa. Go figure. And that was my excuse to my parents when I was writing my book. I was like 24. I just took off to San Diego on a one-way trip and was nomading throughout California because I was out there to get more sunshine. So that was my excuse to kind of play hooky and move out to San Diego while writing my book.
Awesome. Well, so show everyone your flip phone again. One of my really good friends, Josh Smith, he just sent me an email and said, I want you to know I no longer have my phone, so don't text me. I just got a flip phone. And this is a guy who's a super entrepreneur, has tons of businesses. I mean, when I got that email, I was flabbergasted. Like, really? I was thinking to myself, I can't believe this guy did this. So you tell me, why did you do this? Who talked you into it? And what's your reasoning for doing the flip?
Great question. First off, you should connect me with your friend because I'm really interested in hearing from him. But my reasoning, I talked myself into it. Honestly, here's my reasoning. I like to run experiments in general, or make changes to my life that I feel can have like an exponential impact in multiple areas, but specifically like health, performance, longevity, and also like real-time physical pain. So I was actually experiencing physical pain while texting and overusing a smartphone and also typing and while writing my book. And so I start my book off with like sharing all the issues in my own tissues. And so I have, I think I would come out with a comedy bit sometime soon called Issues in My Tissues, but it's true. I have a lot of tendonitis and some nerve stuff. I was a mascot in college, so I have C5, C6 bulge disc nerve stuff going on. So, so that combined with what I have learned about our smartphones' abilities to listen, not all humans listen well, but man, AI and smartphones and technology, man, they listen really good. And that kind of weird thing when you are talking about something and then you see an ad for it 5 minutes later. Well, they're not in your mind. They're in your phone and your phone's listening. I mean, if people haven't woken up to that yet, like that's something to do some own research and do your own experiments with it. And it's really
I just had a friend of mine, Brett, who is a Facebook guru. Brett Rotowski, he does Facebook Guru, and he taught us a class yesterday.
Okay.
He said, literally, him and his wife were talking about Gatorade Zero. They literally were like, we should be getting Gatorade Zero, Gatorade Zero. They had this big, long conversation. 5 minutes later, they go in Facebook, and they're looking at ads. What pops up? Gatorade Zero.
Gatorade Zero.
Like I think he said it was just like 5 minutes later. It was unbelievable. Yeah. He was like, this is nuts.
That combined with, we haven't had enough longitudinal studies to look at how humans are evolving with technology in terms of negative health outcomes that can come with high rates of EMFs, RFs. Even though I, limit my exposure as much as possible, there's still a decent risk there. And that combined with, everything I was doing on my phone could either be done on a flip phone or a computer. And I already had a computer, and I'd prefer to use a computer because it's better. You can have better posture with the computer and be more productive with the computer compared to a phone. And productive, I mean not dependent on the ding of the phone or someone texting you or being on someone else's time. Right now, my voicemail is full and I hardly respond to text messages. But I make calls. I can make calls really well. This has 3 times the battery life. It's waterproof. Yes, I can't post on Instagram. Yes, I don't have Venmo. And yes, I have to call my girlfriend when I get lost in town because I don't have directions, or when we're visiting Santa Fe, New Mexico. No GPS, but you know what? Like, there's a quote or an often said.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. But as you know, I've interviewed over 1,000 women, and every time I've watched a thin eater eat, I realize that maintaining a healthy weight is a skill that can be taught and mastered over time. That's why I created a video course that will teach you all the tips that I learned to help me lose over 30 pounds. It's way more powerful to watch the thin eaters than even to listen or to read it. Go to chantelrayway.com/video for a free glimpse. If you're wanting to take yourself to the next level, everyone needs a coach. Every professional player has a coach. We want to come alongside you and help you in your journey. Go to chantelrayway.com/coaching. I just had someone listen to the audiobook 3 times, and she just emailed me and she said by her listening to the audiobook 3 times, that's what did it. That's what allowed her to really lose the weight. We have an amazing offer for you. It's the 2nd edition of my book, which has tons more information. It has the audiobook, the ebook. It normally runs for $29.99. You can get it today for $4.99. Go to chantelrayway.com/deal to get it. Now back to the show.
Phrase or term, it might have been Mark Twain or someone that said, like, when the majority is on one side, think twice and consider the other. And so that's what I'm doing here. I don't know if it's an experiment. It might be forever. I'm just enjoying it for now and seeing where it takes me and allowing it to. The whole GPS thing, I want to get to know, I want to have a stronger, sharper mind in terms of navigating and geography. And I mean, if you think back to like the Indians and the Native Americans and hearing stories of how and why they felt extra connection with spirit and the divine and the universe and nature when their hair was longer, and like think of how they navigated and understood the world back then and where we're at now. Like we, like you can't live without it. And so I like to minimize the things I'm dependent on in the world. I want to minimize dependencies. Right. And so, that's where I'm at. That's why I like to, there's a principle of cycling I like to use, whether it's cycling off of alcohol or caffeine or this particular exercise or, this person or Netflix. For instance, I just canceled Netflix for the next few months. I'm cycling off of Netflix. I took 3 months off of alcohol earlier this year. I'm always cycling on and off of things to keep my mind and my life sharp and elevated. That's my intention.
Oh, I love that. I love that term, cycling on and off. That is so amazing. Now, how long have you been without the flip phone now? How long is it?
Just over 2 months. Yeah.
2 months. And what would you say is the number? Like, give us the top 2 apps that you'd say, I miss these 2 the most, or would it be the GPS and maybe?
Well, I'll tell you how I'm handling with them. Yeah. I mean, well, the GPS is gone and it helps me prepare more. So I don't really actually miss that. Venmo, I mean, my girlfriend, my partner, Amanda, sends money for me, logs in on my Venmo on her phone. The Aura ring. So I have an Aura ring. I can't use the Aura app, except I'm using it on her phone. So a lot of people would say, oh, but you're still using a smartphone. But like, I've cut down our risk in half of the amount of people like listeners or, the EMFs. And I'm only using her phone for those couple things. And so other than that, I mean, I don't know that I'm missing many other apps these days. I can't think of the Heart Math. I can't use the Heart Math app, so I haven't figured out a solution for that. I might use it on Amanda's phone or find another solution with my computer. But yeah, it's going great.
Awesome. So out of all the different health hacks that you talk about, what would you say would be your top 2 or top 2, 3 that you say, like, everyone should do this daily? Anything that you haven't mentioned or you say, this is the one that I should do? I know when you were coming on the show, you were putting some shea butter on.
Right.
Anything that you say, these really are kind of my big ones?
I mean, There's just so many, and I don't want to be the guy that says like you have to do this one thing, because I don't believe in that, right? I mean, I believe everyone finds their own thing and their own. It's what I love doing is like radical self empowerment, right? So I love to provide the landscape and the opportunity for one to reflect on and take action in their own lifestyle. So, for instance, I have a few self-coaching exercises to help people like literally coach themselves in like 5 or 10 minutes to create like zero laser in on their clarity of the most important goals in their own life. Because my background, another thing we haven't talked much about, is like behavior change science. Is like if the goal is better health, better energy, better performance, better relationships, overall quality of life and well-being, then we need to have a sustainable plan that looks at the how, what, and why, where, when of optimal health behavior change. And so that's if there's one thing that like the health hack I would recommend is someone to develop and cultivate their own self-coaching practice of reflection in their lifestyle. Yes, we can talk about surface level things about, shea butter, or like what's best for the skin in and out of sun. Shea butter is one of our favorites we get here in Boulder from Rebecca's Apothecary. My deodorant, the tagline at the top is nothing bad.
Oh, I love that deodorant. I use that
You
one.
use this one?
Yes.
Oh, I found
it.
this in a mountain town, Netherlands, like 40 minutes from
I
here.
found it. We have it at our TJ Maxx, actually. They sell it at TJ Maxx.
TJ Maxx. There's Palo Santo, frankincense, and vanilla.
Yes.
One, I use a health hacked version of cologne from a company called Alitura Presence.
Ooh.
So this has like amazing essential oils in it. Smells like.
We'll have to put that in the show notes.
Totally. You can put all this in the show notes. Blocking blue light all day, artificial blue light indoors. Like we get so much natural sunlight up in our house. You won't see any bulb on in our house till the evening, until we're cooking. Even then, it's like very minimal. We have red light at night. We'll wear blue blockers. So these are blue blockers that block a little blue light. And so I wear these are prescription as well. So I'll wear blue blockers, especially at night, sometimes during the day. But I'll have the software on the computer that removes the blue light, starting in the morning really, and progressively getting darker into the night. Drink high quality spring water, infrared sauna we have in our spare bedroom. So just the other day, my big kind of recalibration, like stack of health hacks. The reason I can't just say one thing is the secret sauce for helping people like create that sustainable behavior change is stacking their health hacks on top of each other. Meaning, instead of just focusing on like nutrition this week, if you focus on nutrition, movement, and sleep, a little bit in each category, of course, prioritizing the most important, but a little bit of each, and you have one main goal in each of those categories, you'll be more successful in each of those, because one habit will affect the other. Getting great high quality sleep and recovering will help you make better nutrition habits, will help you move better. And so it's all interconnected, right? And so I like to help people stack their health hacks, and I call it habit stacking. And so
I love that.
Anyways,
habit stacking. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's jump right into the listener questions. This question is hysterical. It's from a girl named Casey in Philadelphia. She says, I've been hearing a lot about meditation and mindfulness lately. Should I be meditating daily? Can meditation really help me reach my fitness and work goals? And how do I even do it? Do I just cross leg and say Om? Isn't that hysterical?
That's very funny. What's up, Casey? Thanks for the question, if you're listening. Yeah. Oh, no, she's great. She sounds like she'd be fun to talk with about all of this sometime. So are you wanting me to answer this question?
Yeah. So if someone really wants to do meditation, let's talk about you for you. Yeah. What do you do to meditate? How long do you do it? And what do you suggest? Like, does she start by saying, okay, I'm going to meditate every day at between 8 a.m. and 8:30, or kind of walk her through like, here's the next steps to start meditating?
Yeah, you bet. Great question. So, first thing I would share was that you can create a meditation practice without meditating,
Mm.
meaning you can add meditation and mindfulness while you're doing the dishes, while you're taking your dog out, while you're showering, while you're doing your duty in the morning, instead of being on your iPhone, right? The eye poopers of the world. It's a lot of people put meditation on a pedestal because they think it has to be sitting down with the gong going and the sage burning and creating this experience that's just like perfect. Yes, sitting down to do mindful meditation, breathing exercise can be great, but I'd say there's two ways you can add meditation. One is adding meditation to your existing practices of life. So practice that, maybe that mantra I shared earlier, and connected breathing. A lot of people can get lost with meditation. And what I found is a big reason is they're not connected to the breath. And so what adding a mantra does on top of a breath, so focusing on the breath, the inhale and the exhale, is one thing on its own. If you had connected breathing just on its own, where you were mindfully connected to your breath at all times. I mean, if you think about it, if you're listening to this right now, how many of your listeners are consciously connected to their breath? And just now talking about breathing probably has people a little bit more interested or mindful or connected to their breath, right? But if we add a little bit more mindfulness to the connection to our breath and then add a mantra on top of that,
So
this
give us
little,
an example. Give us an example of that.
while you're driving, practice this mantra. As you inhale and exhale, you're saying, I am here now in this. And it's can be a really beautiful expression. Like, that's just what works for me. That's what I learned 7 years ago when I read this book for the first time. And so, that's one example of how you can add mindfulness and meditation into your normal day. Now, when it comes to the morning, or actually sitting down to meditate, I would suggest first thing in the morning or right before bed. And here's why. Right before bed, you're stacking your hacks. It'll actually help you sleep better, right? So you're not just meditating to meditate or de-stress, but you're meditating to optimize your sleep and also like calm down and recenter and really restore and find a good, solid, peaceful place before sleep, which can be just so meaningful to how well you feel when you wake up in the morning. So impactful. So that's one option. So I would play with the timing, but those are two good times because so that's why for evening. But for the morning, what happens is your brain waves, as you're going from a sleep state to a waking state, I believe they stay in alpha meditative state, and you're able to better meditate and or like find that zone of mental relaxation and focus while you're meditating, like right after you wake up, like before you go to the bathroom, before you drink water, before you get on your phone, or don't get on your phone. I don't want to project that people are getting on their phone before for me, sometimes I'll do it before I go out and take my dog out or feed my dog. Now that can be hard sometimes when you have a dog or a child really wanting to be taken care of. So play with it. Find the times of your day when you can carve out your me time, your individual time, and then experiment. I would recommend starting with a mantra and a breathing exercise, say, for example, before trying an app. I like to minimize things I'm dependent on, right? So like technology, like some people swear by different apps for meditation. I'm an analog guy. And so that mantra can really help. I am here now in this, and you can link the book, The Presence Process, in the show notes. A couple other things to say is like, you don't want too much water in your belly. You can have a little bit of water before meditation, but you don't want to have to pee. You don't want to have too much energy. So maybe a little bit caffeine, but not too much, especially if you're sensitive. I like to have a decaf coffee first thing in the morning, or like some mushrooms, or, from Four Sigmatic. But yeah, find your me time in a relaxing setting. and just breathe and stay
All right.
connected with your breath.
All right. This next question is from Mark in Tuscaloosa, which I don't even know where that is, but it says, how clean should I be eating to be at my peak healthiness? I've already cut back on gluten and dairy, but a bunch of my super healthy friends say that I should cut out all sugar and soy too. I think I'll starve if I do that. Do I really need to go that clean to be healthy? Mark in Tuscaloosa.
What up, Mark? I think I love it. Great question. Really good question. And lots of good question marks and exclamation points at the end. I think Tuscaloosa, is that in Florida? I think it's somewhere down south. Hey, Mark, how clean should you be eating? Well, to both your questions, like the other thing I will say is what I do in my book and my work is also to like help instill more loving, conscious, intentional communication with oneself. So through these self-coaching exercises, like the words we say to ourselves and use like how we speak and what we say, those words carry energy to them. So the shoulding, like I know a lot of times asking like, what should I do in terms of like what's best for me? But I have a joke in my book that says, don't should on yourself and don't should on others. You wouldn't want to should on yourself. In terms of like telling people they should do that, like that's a little bit maybe worse than shooting on yourself. Like it's your choice if you want to shoot on yourself, but being mindful of communication with others. But in this instance, like you don't have to do, you shouldn't. If I were to say what's best for you to be at your peak healthiness, as far as eating goes, it would be eating twofold for different principles. All right. This is what we're saying in our cookbook. Amanda and I, we swear by this. Eating for both pleasure and performance. That's what we feel it's about. And everything starts and ends from there. And that doesn't mean your pleasure can't have great ingredients in it that allow you to have great performance. And that doesn't mean your performance foods have to taste like cardboard. Like they can all taste great and they can all be filled with great ingredients. So I know you were probably being a little bit, he's probably, joking around a little bit in terms of like, if you cut out all sugar and soy, you might starve. I mean, I know you're making that comment in jest, but do your own research on too much sugar and soy.
Well, thank you so much. And if you have a question that you want answered, go to questions@chantelrayway.com. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.